Reading it made my hair stand on end. I was horrified. But this wasn't an article in Eerie magazine or a synopsis of the latest splatter movie to come out of Hollywood. It was an entry in a journal of psychology, depicting the steps taken in an experiment in behavioral studies. The subject of the experiment was taken from her mother the moment she was born. She was kept in isolation and bottle raised so that she would have no contact with her own kind. Raised in this circumstance until sexual maturity, she was then inseminated artificially so as to ensure the continued isolation from her kindred. And this was all done for the express purpose of observing whether or not this young female would prepare a nest for her babies before they were born, even though she had never seen that task performed. The fact that the subject was a rat may diminish the sense of outrage for many, but anyone with a pet or anyone with a love of animals on any level will have to see that this is cruel treatment of an innocent, unsuspecting creature for the indefensible purpose of satisfying the scientist's curiosity. I can understand the existence of the curiosity. I cannot understand how anyone could feel that they have the right to torture an animal to this degree to satisfy that curiosity. Amazingly, this isn't the end of the indignities. The same young rat is forced to wear a stiff rubber collar around her neck when she is growing up so that she cannot clean her sex organs as rats normally do. This for the purpose of discovering that she will not usually lick her newborn babies clean, even though they take off the rubber collar a day or so before she gives birth. Within this same article, the author dryly states, there is not much scientific evidence that human infants have the same critical periods that birds and rats do. I don't wonder at it, considering the steps necessary to obtain the evidence. Now, allow me to illustrate. I was invited by a friend to go trout fishing. Early on in our walk up the stream, he caught a nice little brown trout. The fellow had no sooner taken the fish out of the water and removed the hook when he slit the still wiggling trout down the middle and disemboweled it. He said that he was curious to see what was in the fish's stomach, because this would tell him what type of fly he should use to catch the next one. I pointed out to him that whatever fly he had just used seemed to work fine. But he retorted that my logic was unreliable. He wanted to be sure. And besides, he said, the fish can't feel it anyway. The fish can't feel it. Curiosity seems to have overpowered perspective. It appears that research scientists, like my fishing buddy, have detached themselves from their subjects to such a degree that they actually think that their subjects don't feel things in the same way that we do, and that this makes it perfectly right to afflict them with our probes and calipers. Well, there are many laws and rules governing this kind of experimentation. Committees by the hundreds sit and decide if experimental programs are justifiable, and to establish rules for the husbandry of the animals that will be used in the experiments. In 1966, the United States Congress passed the Animal Welfare Act to set standards for the transportation and husbandry of laboratory animals, excluding rats, mice, and birds. This act was amended in 1970, 76, 85, and 1990, and rats, mice, and birds continue to be left out in the cold. These rules and regulations can never fully address the central issue. Because of the nature of our system, laws are written after debate between opposing factions. In this case, research facilities, supported by capitalists on one side, and animal rights advocates on the other. While the advocates While the animals are better protected as a result of this legislation, they are still vulnerable. This is something that must be dealt with on a human level. If we are indeed the crowning achievement of Charles Darwin's theories upon the origin of species and the descent of man, and I believe we are, then along with that supremacy should come the responsibility of stewardship, yeah? I believe that the researchers themselves must be targeted, not with threats of punishment, but with further instruction in the sensitivity of the creatures whose welfare they hold quite literally in their hands. The atrocities of World War II, involving experimentation on humans, were perpetrated as a direct result of Nazi propaganda that dehumanized entire segments of our society. The phrase that is repeatedly used to justify the use of animals in invasive types of research is less sentient. I'll use the phrase in a sentence. We know that this experiment will hurt. So rather than perform it on one of our own kind, we'll try it on a less sentient being. Just how much less sentient are the rats, mice, and birds that are being tormented in the millions every single day? Not to mention the dogs, cats, horses, and bonobos. Have some researchers come to take less sentient to mean non-sentient? I'm afraid that is exactly the case. I believe that a large number of researchers have convinced themselves that the animals can't feel it anyway.